cactus and succulent growers, I'm Lynn and welcome to Desert Plants of Avalon. And in today's video I'm going to be doing a bit of an update and potting up the cutting that I had to take from the Polaskia chichipe that I have had since I was 12 years old, that I got from my brother, that I have now grown for 42 years. And a bit of an update on the bottom part where I did the cut from on the main plant, and this is the top cutting here. Now, I did a video, it was quite a few months ago, in fact it wasn't that long after we moved into the new house, of having to do a drastic cut of this Polaskia chichipe because it had got sunburn right in the middle. Here, it was a very tall cactus, as you can imagine. I've been growing it since I was 12, and it was that high when my brother got it anyway. I got it from him, and it has grown so tall over the years. And the sunburn progressed, and it actually turned into rot in the middle of the cactus. So I had to do a drastic chop, and I said I'd do an update when it has calloused over and when it's time to pot up the cutting. So it has been hanging up here now in my little spare room where I've got a lot of my cacti that are going to be going into the new greenhouse at the end of this month, which I'm very excited about. It'll probably be December by the time I put these into the new greenhouse, because the greenhouse is coming the end of November, so I've got to prepare it all first before putting the cacti in, but I'm excited about that. But this particular cactus, the Polaskia chichipe, is one that isn't cold hardy. So whereas I'd heat the greenhouse at 5 Celsius, 41 degree Fahrenheit, this is one that needs 10 degree Celsius, 50 degree Fahrenheit. So it's one I have to overwinter anyway. So it's fine to sort of pot it up now and just leave it in dry soil, and then introduce a bit of water in the spring, probably from mid-March to late March onwards. And as I explained in the video, when you have to do drastic cuts on cacti, you manage to save any cuttings, you do have to let them fully callus over before you can pot them up. And this is especially important when you're dealing with plants in this time of year. I mean, it's practically winter now. So this has been sitting up here. I had it under the table out in the garden when we did cut it originally. But obviously it's been up here since the weather's been cold. But it has formed a very thick callus at the bottom, you can see. And by the way, that greenish bluish powder is copper mixture powder. It's not fungus. I put that on when I took the cutting just to prevent any fungus. And it's calloused over very, very, very well. And I just turn it around there so you can see a very thick scab. And sometimes it can take anything from a couple of weeks to a few months before it's formed a very thick scab. And you'll know when a columnar cactus cutting is fully calloused over, because it will feel very hard to touch. And also the ring that goes in the middle, which is where the roots will come from, will sort of be more prominent as the outer side will sort of draw itself upwards. But this is fully ready now to plant into cactus soil, and I am going to be keeping it dry until the spring because it's dormant anyway. This time of year all the cacti are dormant. I'm just going to show you another example. I've got two other Polaskia from my very large one that are still in the callousing over stage. But I've got this one here that I took again in the summer. It was a Polaskia that toppled over, and I've just had it hanging, drying, callousing. It's been a few months as well. And I'm just going to show you the bottom. It's actually sent out roots anyway. I'll just show you underneath here. You can see, and there's a root hair there coming out. I don't know whether you can see with the camera, but there's 3, 4, in fact 5 big roots just coming out the bottom. And now this has had no soil or water, it's just been hanging there. So even if I wasn't to pot this up and just left it, you'd probably find by the spring it would send out roots anyway. But I want to get it potted up so it just get more itself settled, so it's all prepared for the spring. And as I say, it's one that's going to be overwintered indoors anyway. Same as this Polaskia. And that's going to be what I'm going to be doing today. And I'm going to show you an update on the lower part where I had to take the cutting from. As I say, 42 years in my care. So it's been with me a long time. And you can also pot cactus cuttings up in pure grit as well. In fact, if it was probably the spring, I would probably pot it up in more grit and then start to water it more. But it'd be fine in a very gritty cactus mix for now, and just keeping it dry until the spring. So that's my video for today. So obviously I'm going to be taking this off here now, and I'm gonna have to take it outside. It's a bit chilly today, but it's dry, and it's sort of a nice dry, bright sort of late fall, early winter sort of day, and it's going to be better for me filming and show you me potting this up. Now I've made the soil mixture up here, and I've got a pot to pop the cutting up in, but before I do that, I'm just going to show you the update on the lower part of the Polaskia that I had to take the cutting from. It had rotted in the middle from the sun damage. We did have an extremely hot spring and summer this year, very unusual for Ireland, and as I say, rotted, and I had to cut it. So this is the cut part, and obviously it's a bluey green at the top, again like the lower part of the cutting, but that's because of the copper powder that prevents mould and fungus, so that's not mould. It's completely dried, and the cellular coring has gone really hard. And what's going to happen next year, obviously again at this time of year, it's completely dormant. So when I introduce watering next year to this lower part, it's going to come back into growth, and it's going to send out side shoots because it's been cut. So it's going to encourage it to send out pups out to these side of the branch. It's a little branches here, and possibly even from the base. Polaskia often sort of have quite arms coming from them anyway. These are two that was already growing when the plant was completely all in one piece. So it looks a bit scabby, but it is a very old cactus, so that's going to recover and side shoot, so that's good. And the pot here, I've made sure I've got a deep pot for the cutting, and I've just got a little bit of a mesh at the bottom there to hide the drainage holes, but so water can still get through when I do water in the spring. And I've got a very well draining, very gritty cactus soil, and I usually sort of mix up 3 equal parts of loam, grit, and either pumice or perlite or sand. But in this case I've used extra gritty because it is a cutting and it doesn't have roots, so it's possible by the March, the late March, when I start to reintroduce water, it may not even have any roots still. So I want to introduce water very slowly, and it's very important to have a very gritty soil. So I've used extra grit. I've used John Innes #2 loam. I love to use a brand by Clover because it's lovely quality loam. And then I've used extra horticultural grit, over 50%. And I've also got a bit of horticultural sand in as well. And this is really important when you're potting up cactus. It doesn't have to be cuttings, it's even when you're repotting. You need to make sure that the soil is loose when you've mixed it up. You can buy commercial cactus soils. There's some good quality ones on the market. There's also some rubbish ones as well. But that's okay if you have a small collection of cactus and succulents. If you have a large collection, such as I do, it just couldn't afford to buy commercial cactus. It was too expensive. So it's far more economical to make up your own soil mix. And if you want to know how I make up my cactus and succulent soil, then check out a video I've made for my YouTube channel. It's many years ago now, but I basically use that mix practically with all of the plants, the cacti and succulents. I set this time because I'm using extra grit because it's a cut-in. But do check out that video on how to make cactus soil in 3 easy steps, and I'll link that video up above. Go ahead and watch it after this one. May not be repotting season as such for most of you, but you can get plans ahead for the upcoming spring. Yes, I know it's still only November, but I'm looking forward to spring already. So you want to make sure the soil is loose and use dry soil. Sometimes if you're potting on cacti, it doesn't matter if the soil is a wee bit moist, but with cuttings it's important it's dry, and you want to make sure that that's an example there. It's loose, so when I do start watering it's going to dry out quick. Anyway, enough of my waffle. So I'm going to show you now potting up the cutting. Now what I'm going to be doing here, just putting a little bit of soil in at the bottom here. And I'm not going to be putting too much in because obviously the cutting does not have roots, so I don't want to have too deep of a pot. If I was to put that much in and then put the cutting in. Then when you start to introduce water, it could be sitting too long in damper soil, but even though it's very well draining. So I've literally got about 3 inches at the bottom there, and then I'm going to be putting the cutting in and then putting in the soil around it up to there. So that's the bit in the bottom there. Now here's the cutting, and I've got these tongs because these are great when you're handling spiny cacti, particularly serious cacti. So obviously I've got it here, and I'm just going to then place this into the middle like so. And I'm going to hold this up. Can't actually let go of this, I think, now. Yep, that's good. But I just don't like to use gloves. I know some people do. I'm going to be putting this all in around the sides. I'm going to be putting about 3 inches again around the sides. And this cutting isn't too tall, but if you happen to have an extremely tall cactus cutting, I have made a video, again it was quite a few years ago, on how to pot up a tall cactus cutting, how to pot up and support a tall cactus cutting. Because when it's a tall cactus cutting, the biggest dilemma when it doesn't have roots is how to get it to stop it from toppling over. So that's enough soil in here. I'm just going to gently press down. I don't want to press down too hard. And as I mentioned, I won't be giving this a scrap of water now until the spring, which will be next year. But if this happened to be in the spring or summertime and it was sort of the active growing period, I probably would lightly mist with a bit of a mist watering spray at the base of the cactus to encourage rooting, but it's not a necessity. I've even rooted cactus cuttings in air with no soil and water, and do go and check out a video I made on how to root cactus, serious cactus cuttings that is, with no soil and water, and you'll see what I mean. So even if it was spring or summer and I just kept this dry, it would still send out roots. Cacti will look for water, so they'll send out their roots. And this is quite a fat chunky cutting anyway, so it's going to be absolutely fine. So there we go, it's still a cutting, it has no roots. So I'm going to make sure now I put this into a bright position, probably back into the room it was in. It's one I overwinter indoors anyway at this time of year, so it's not going to be going into our greenhouse when we get it at the end of this month. So it's one that's going to just sit it indoors and then probably bring it out into the greenhouse then in the spring and summer. Happy days. Bit of a tap. And if the cutting, I mean this stands up by itself, if it didn't, you can use a few little rocks or crystals or whatever at the base to support it, or you can put a bamboo stick in and wrap a support around it. But as I say, do check that video out on how to support a tall cactus cutting if you have that dilemma, and that will be up above. So then guys, thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't done already, do subscribe and click the notification bell. Follow me on Insta and Facebook at Desert Plants of Avalon. And do stay tuned for when we get the new greenhouse at the end of this month. I'm going to be filming when the guys are putting up the greenhouse and all the exciting projects that I'm going to have with that when we bring all the plants in there. So then guys, I want to wish you loads of love, loads of happiness, and most importantly, tons and tons of cactus power. Until my next video, bye. Bye. Thank you for potting me up and saving me.